Every UFO whistleblower is full of shit. I'm going to tell you why.
This is really Just Stop. Here's Ross, the host with today's dose of common sense.
This episode is probably not going to be very long. But first, a word from our sponsor. We don't have one. Moving on. What I said, every UFO whistleblower is full of shit, is 100% true, and I'm going to tell you why. Because not a single one of them will tell you how they know what they know. They're ready to tell you the most deeply kept secret in world history, that we're not alone in the universe, and that other species of beings are visiting us and interacting with us fairly often. And we have some of their super duper secret technology, and we've reverse engineered some of it, and we can do all sorts of things like go from space through the atmosphere and then into the ocean and travel under the ocean at 500 knots and all these other things that these craft and, these UAPs, UFOs, or alien reproduction vehicles and all these other weird, stupid terms that people have come up with. But they won't tell you how they know, or they won't tell you who told them. They're going to tell you the greatest secret of humankind, but they're not going to tell you, any of the actual evidence. They're not going to show you anything or hand you anything or even go before Congress and testify when Congress is like, I want you to tell me this thing. And they're like, no, sorry, I can't tell you that. Well, you're just a fucking idiot. If you want us to believe that you're willing to risk being assassinated by the men in black or thrown in federal prison forever because you're going to tell the world that there's alien life, what are you afraid of? You're already telling us the deepest, darkest secret of the universe. But you're not going to tell us anything. Oh, I can't tell you how I know that. I can't tell you what I did. I can't tell you where I was when this happened. I can't tell you who told me this. And you can't tell us anything, actually. And then people are like, well, he went through the Doppler process. Yeah, because they don't care if you're out there spouting off a bunch of nonsense. They only care if you're going to actually tell people something that's classified. It's just like, oh, David Grush, he went through, I went through this whole thing, and it was everything I said is approved by this whatever process. So what? They don't care if you're lying. They don't care if you're spouting a bunch of nonsense about alien life and shit like that. They really don't. You can write a book. I could write a book today saying that I was in a secret soldier program where I traveled to the planet Venus and I did battle with reptilian aliens. And then after I defeated these aliens, the inhabitants of Jupiter started treating me like I was their own personal Jesus. And then they started erecting monuments to me and everything. And it got a little weird. So I hopped on a ship and I came back. I had still one of their ships because our ships couldn't actually get me back home. It was all big. It was a software update that didn't happen and stuff. And I can submit that to the Department of Defense and say, as a veteran, someone who used to hold a security clearance, I thought I'd better pass this through you guys first to make sure I'm not revealing any classified information. And the DOD is going to go, this is a pretty good story. Yeah, we don't care. Go ahead, tell everybody. Because they don't care. They only care if you're actually divulging classified information. And none of you are. And you sit there and say you're not. So why do you think they're approving you to go out here and say that, you know all these things that you've never seen yourself? And you've never actually interacted with yourself. You've never talked to any direct experiencers yourselves. It's all stupid. And this UAP task force, all of them were involved in this thing called the UAP task force. And they all came to the UAP task force with a desire to be involved in the UAP task force. They were all involved in all of that other shit before. So contrary to what a lot of them have said, oh, I had no interest in this before. I think it was David Grush who said that. I might have to, you correct me if I'm wrong, but go back and listen to his testimony. I'm pretty sure he said he had no interest in this topic until he was assigned the task of being a liaison with the UAP task force. Well, on Joe Rogan the other day, he had another guy from the UAP task force, and that guy said that David Grush came to him and said, hey, I want to be involved in the UAP task force. At least that's what it sounded like he said. If I'm misunderstanding what he was saying, let me know. I forget his name. I'm not even going to bother looking it up. But it was another thing where Jason Sands was spouting off his nonsense about alien beings and stuff. And, oh, I totally forgot that this had happened. And then I remembered. Something jarred my memory. And I went, you don't forget meeting a fucking alien. All right? You just don't. I'm sorry. It would be like the most intense thing that ever happened to you in your existence. And you're just going to be like, it was no big deal. 20 years later, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that alien guy. I saw that. You are all so stupid to be falling for this crap. If you're willing to stand up there in front of God and everybody and say, I know all about the aliens. I have no doubt in my mind that the aliens exist and that they visit here. Show us something. Tell us a name. Tell us a name. Oh, I don't want to out this person. It's not my place to out them. Yes, it is. You're standing up there telling us that you can prove it, but you need this other person's permission first. Well, no, you don't. Just tell us who it is. Just say their name. Out them. Force them out. Oh, what if they don't want to? Well, then they're lying too. Because the truth of the matter is, most of these UAP task force guys, they just read a bunch of stuff and watched some videos and things. I've been listening to them talk. I've been listening to them on podcasts and during interviews and stuff. You know what they did? They sat around and read a bunch of stuff. A lot of it on the internet. And watched videos and stuff. Oh, this came from the Department of Defense. It's a video and blah, 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 UAP. Okay. That doesn't mean it's an alien. And that's all they did. They were reading stories. And you can hear them say these things when they're doing interviews and podcasts. It was like, oh, there was one where this guy said that there was a Stargate and blah, 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 blah. That story's old. You just read that off of the internet. That's not some classified top secret thing that was in the UAP files at the Pentagon that had to be dug up and they had to get approval for it. It's a stupid story that a dude made up on the internet. And he went around, giving talks and explaining how this thing was. And it's stupid. It's like they're lying. But maybe they don't understand that they're lying. They were told a bunch of stories about things that may or may not have happened at all. And they believe it. And they're running around telling people all this stuff. If you can imagine all the weird stories you've heard in your lifetime and you think back on them now, and you're like, how many of those were even true? Most of them probably were not. They were just people talking bullshit. It's the same thing. They just happened to be exposed to it as a job. It was somehow they got a job where all they got to do is like watch videos that were on In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy back in the day. There's nothing new. And they're retelling stories that have been debunked, stories that have been proven to be wrong, or, proven that they weren't aliens, that we know what they were. And it's getting insane. They are getting so much attention, and it's all free. And I lost it a little bit this morning on X because Lou Elizondo was on a podcast saying, I don't make any money out of this. I'm not profiting from this at all. Calling me a grifter, blah, 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 blah. The fuck you aren't. You have the #1 best-selling book currently, which is making you a lot of money. You charge speaking fees for going to events. You have a list of events currently on your website where you charge people admission. You can buy the tickets right on your website. So don't tell me you aren't profiting from this. You are. You're making money. You're making a living. You're probably making more money than you did when you were in government service. I don't know if he gets paid for his appearances in these other documentaries and TV shows and stuff. I don't know. Most people do because, there are rules in Hollywood. Now, doing some of these podcasts, no, most podcasters don't make enough money to pay guests. I wouldn't pay a guest if I could afford it. Why would I? I'm not going to pay someone to appear in front of my podcast. That's stupid. It's a podcast. Maybe 40 people are going to watch or listen to it. That's me, though. I'm sure a lot of people have much larger audiences, but it's just ridiculous. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. And now you've got people who are blatantly and openly lying, like Jake Barber. Openly and blatantly lying. And we're just supposed to accept that. And all these people, they're just like, it's like a giant circle jerk of people who can't tell the truth. They're either intentionally lying because they're trying to profit from it, or they're just obfuscating, or they're telling you, I know this for a fact. I just can't tell you why I know this as a fact. Can't tell you how I know that, how I figured this out. I can't tell you who told me that it was a fact. I don't know. It's another the moon is made out of cheese thing. That's all it is. I have yet to see not one single credible person actually say that they know something. It's all just conjecture and guesswork and, I believe this, I believe that, I believe this. Well, a lot of people believe in fairies. Doesn't mean they're real. A lot of people believe in ghosts. Doesn't mean they're real. Angels, demons, fiscally responsible politicians, all of those fantasy things that are out there that people believe in, they aren't real. Is it possible that there's alien life? Yes, it's absolutely possible. As I've said 100 times, in my opinion, the chances would be greater that there were not, or the chances would be smaller that there wasn't life out there, because just, math alone can go, well, at least there's, even if it was just, there might be 10 other civilizations inside this galaxy of ours. That's a lot. That's a lot. And they're still far enough away that we're never going to interact with them, but that's a lot for a civilization that thought for most of its existence that they were the only intelligent beings in the universe, in all of God's creation. For that society to even say, we think there might be one civilization in this galaxy other than us, and we saw signs of life, that would be humongous. But these people are just like, oh yeah, they're everywhere. They're flying here all the time. They crash. They always crash on these military ranges where we test fly these experimental craft. I'm not sure why, but that's where they crash all the time. And it's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's getting stupid. I'm still waiting my entire life, since, before I was 10, I don't know, like I was 7, 8 years old, watching TV shows about it. I'm still waiting 50 years now for someone to provide some form of proof of anything they say. And miraculously, it all disappears. It's all gone. Oh, and there's a whole bunch of people out there trying to support other people's stories. I believe this guy's story. Well, of course you do, because his story is supporting your story. Just because two people are telling a bullshit story that supports each other doesn't mean either one of them are true. I need someone to come forward and tell us. And until it's someone who we can have faith in, who would know, not, I was a former government contractor. I did this for 20 years. I retrieved stuff from the desert floor. And okay. Doesn't mean they were aliens. Just because you weren't told what they were doesn't mean it was a secret. I need someone like, I don't know, the chief of staff for the White House to come out and say, yep, there's aliens. Here's a picture of one. This is Bob. Come on out, Bob. I don't care. Or the president. But they can't say, we believe, or I think, or after talking to 40 eyewitnesses who may or may not be telling the truth at all, like David Grush, after interviewing 40 eyewitnesses to what? That you read a document. A lot of them are eyewitnesses who read a document. They didn't see an alien or a UFO. They're like, this person told me that they once read a document that said X. That means dick. That means fuck all, people. It means nothing. And it's getting to the point where they are damaging any chance of people doing any real research into this topic. And it makes me wonder let's put on my tinfoil hat for a while, because I'm not one of the tinfoil hat people. I'm a rationally thinking, intelligent person. I figure things out. I'm a researcher. I'm an investigator. I don't go off of conjecture and bullshit. I need facts. I need documentation. I need evidence. So far, nobody's provided any. But let me put on my tinfoil hat and let me talk about a conspiracy. And it's them. It's literally them. They are the conspiracy. And this can go one of two ways. Maybe more than that, but let's talk about two. Number one being, they're doing it on purpose. They're just doing it on purpose, either for profit, for notoriety, or because they were told to. And they are an intentional disinformation campaign, all of them working in concert. Or they were just what the commies used to call a useful idiot, where they were so easily influenced and manipulated that powers within the government, deep-seated, deep state powers who make billions and billions and billions of dollars developing top secret weaponry, craft, aerospace technologies, things like that, are still trying to protect their investments by poisoning the well of information that's available with intentional lies. If you watched the documentary Mirage Men, which I did, I watched it twice. It was that intriguing. Richard Doty, don't know the guy, claims to be a former OSI agent with the Air Force, claims that he was tasked with intentionally misleading people and making them think that there were UFOs and aliens in order to stop them from looking at classified craft. So in other words, look over here. Don't look behind the curtain. Look over there at this other thing. And if he's telling the truth, do you think they stopped doing that? I don't think so. And so you have, let's see, how long's it been since the 40s? Jesus, 60, 80 years. 80 years. So it's been 80 years that governments have been misdirecting people, concealing things, hiding things, claiming things, telling people this is what this is instead of what it really is. And there have been millions of people over those decades who have gone in and out of these corridors of power and corridors of the Pentagon, literally hallways and corridors of the Pentagon, and been through military systems and on missions and been in shops and in different sections of the military that have dealt with different pieces of classified information or classified technology. And they've all seen and heard things, and many of them wrote it down or reported it. This dude told me this thing. I don't know if he's telling the truth or not, but this person reported this to me. And there are a lot of places in the government where if someone tells you something, you have to write it down. You have to log it. You have to log those activities. Oh, this person came to me and reported waste, fraud, and abuse because we were misusing the Element 115 anti-gravity engine. You still have to write that down. That's going to wind up in a log somewhere. Just like if you go through the FBI's archive, there are a bunch of documents in there of recorded conversations, things that went on that people who reported things to the FBI that were absolute nonsense, but they had to still log it and record it and go, this person came to us and said that some reptilian aliens kidnapped them and took them over, and he hung out with Tesla for a while until they figured out the 0-point energy thing. And then once that was done, they brought him back home, and he may have been anally violated. They still had to write that down, and it's in a file somewhere at the FBI in their archives. And if you go search those archives for, I don't know, anal violation, you're probably going to find something. I was anally probed by the Greys when they came and took me away. Someone reported that stuff to the FBI, because a lot of these people who are telling these stories, they don't just stop. They have to commit. So they're like, I have to report that. I have to go to the hospital. I have to get an exam. I have to report it to the police. I have to talk to the FBI. I have to call the Pentagon and tell them that aliens came and got me. I have to play this out to the end. And so it's written down. It's on documents. It's all over the place. You just have to look for them and find them, and people find them. And then they're sitting in an office somewhere reading it, and they're saying, oh my God, the blue alien in this crab-shaped UFO came down and, ate a goat live, just a live goat, ate it, and then got back in his ship and flew away. And they're just going to go, this is an official government document. So this must have happened. No, not necessarily. It's just what someone said, and someone wrote it down, put it in a document, put it in a file, probably put it in the file where the crazy people are. So many people are unfamiliar with how our government works and how the military works and how secrets work, how technology works, that they are willing to believe anything is an alien. And I can tell you, man, there are some stories that I should probably tell you, because I was never told not to tell. So I was never told to sign an NDA about certain things, and I was never sworn to secrecy. The only reason why I haven't said them is because I know they are classified, or it's reasonable to assume that they are classified, because they didn't tell us about them. They're not on the news. No one knows about them except the people who are there. So when you have incidental exposure to these things, typically if they know someone was exposed to those sorts of things, they can say, hey, that's classified. You should keep your mouth shut. Or if they want to go so far as to say, hey, need you to sign this thing here that says that you're going to never talk about what you just saw today. But there are things that can happen when you get exposed to things unintentionally, and no one actually knows that you are unintentionally exposed to these things. So no one comes to you and says, keep your mouth shut, kid. That's some important stuff that we don't want the Ruskies to know about. So, but you know that it's classified because you're like, this is next level shit over there right now that I'm looking at. And I'm pretty sure I'm not supposed to be seeing this right now. They probably assumed I was asleep, but I didn't sleep very well. So I was up a lot at night, in the middle of the night, with my night vision, with my PVS 14, watching things. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. The stories that people have told me over the years, if I believed every one of them were true, I'd be selling screenplays right now. Because there are people who believe that an Afghan was the first person on the moon from their space program from Afghanistan. They were told that by the Russians. The Russians fed the Afghan people a whole bunch of propaganda and anti-Western propaganda, anti-U.S. propaganda. So there was a whole bunch of stuff that went on back then. So there are a lot of Afghans, or at least there used to be. I don't know how that's going now. They might all be dead, who believed things that were absolute nonsense because of propaganda. The propaganda was fed to them intentionally so that they would develop a distaste and a distrust for the Western world, because they wanted to maintain their influence over these people. So there were a lot of Afghans who believed that they were once a highly advanced society, but the West stole all that stuff from them, So it's kind of like, the Arab world saying we invented math, things like that. It's kind of that whole mentality, but it was very specific about some things that happened in history that they claim they actually did, and somehow the United States took credit for it. So there's a lot of crap floating around, but there are people there who believe that because that's what they were taught in school. That's what they were told by their parents and their grandparents. So it's a generational belief that's just being perpetuated. And it's nonsense. It's utter nonsense, but they still believe it. And you have that everywhere in the world. But one of the funniest incidents was in Afghanistan, and one of our guys on his guard shift up in his tower, because we all worked guard shifts up in a tower. Well, not everybody, but all the people who worked for a living had to pull a guard at some point. And this spiraling, flaming thing in the sky. Let's see if I can get my bearings right. I believe it would have been north, kind of northeast from where we were, spinning a spiral with a trail behind it, just going in a spiral that looked like it was coming straight toward him. Freaked out. I'm not going to name names because the poor guy, it really freaked him out. And he was 100% convinced that it was an alien invasion, that it was a UFO, and it was coming to get us. That was what he thought was happening. And what it really was a failed missile launch in Russia, or Russian territory. I think it might have been Tajikistan or Kazakhstan or wherever it was, but no, it wouldn't have been that. I forget. It was somewhere that was literally hundreds of miles away. But because of the atmosphere, and because of the conditions that night, and because of the brightness of the object and all of those things, it looked like it was just a few hundred yards away, and it looked like it was just spiraling right toward us. And there's video of it. It's you can see it. It's online. People took videos of it because it went on for quite some time. And it was basically a missile that launched and went out of control and just started spinning in a spiral, a large kind of spiral, until I don't remember if they blew it up or if it crashed or whatever. But it was freaky looking. Scared the crap out of that kid. And we teased him about it for the rest of the deployment. But if nobody had filmed that, and if we had different relations with people around the world at that time, like let's say that was North Korea, we would have never probably actually known what that was, but we knew what it was, like the same day. I guess it would have been the next morning. People knew what it was because it was on the news. You could Google it. It was, people were showing videos of it on Twitter and Facebook and stuff because it was just a weird thing. It was in the sky. So UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomenon. That's what it was for a couple of hours until someone in the, Russian ministry of whatever said, oh no, that was us. That's one of our rockets got out of hand and kind of started going crazy. We had a failed launch. And so the rest of the world goes, oh, wow, it looks really weird. And you get the same thing where you used to. I don't know if you do as much as you used to, but every time SpaceX would launch a rocket, it does weird things in the atmosphere when things are separating and burning and going up and you're leaving the atmosphere of the Earth. You get this like blooming, effect around it, and then it leaves a trail, and it looks kind of like a tadpole up in the sky. And then you also have the arc of it traveling, where it appears that it's going in a giant curve because it's going up and the Earth is turning, and all these other things. And I just remember the first several times that happened, not everybody, but a lot of people were posting things online like, oh my God, I'm seeing this UFO, what's happening? Because they didn't understand what it was. And it took some experts and SpaceX and other people to get on television or online and say, no, this is actually us. This is what happens. Look, here's us. Here's a close-up video of it happening before, people stopped freaking out about it. But some people are never going to seek out the truth. They're just going to go, I saw this alien up there running around in a spiral. I don't know how he kept his brain because he had to be dizzy as shit. It's just stupid. But anyway, that was a funny story because we teased him about it for the rest of the thing. Did you see any aliens today? Did you get abducted? Have you been probed? That sort of stuff. So anyway, the poor guy. But there are things that we can't talk about, even if we weren't told not to talk about them, and it's things that I saw things, but it was in a place where we controlled the airspace. We were the only thing in the airspace. And if it was something that wasn't ours in the airspace, there would have been a response because it wasn't invisible and it wasn't silent. And you would still call it a UAP. You would still say it was an anomalous phenomenon. And some people would say it couldn't have been ours because our planes can't do that. And it's wrong. They would all be wrong because it was in a place where we were in control of all of the air. And we knew exactly what was where and when. And I couldn't have been the only one who saw it. So, anyway. But, I don't know, maybe someday I'll tell that story. Maybe. There's actually 2 stories from Afghanistan that I may tell someday. It's been long enough. I mean, geez. It's been, when was it? That was 2012. So it's been a while. It's been longer than I would like to remember, or longer than I would like to think, because holy crap, that was a long time ago now. As you get old, it's not really that long, so it's really kind of weird. When you think back, the older you get, segments of time become less significant. Like, can you imagine when you were 10 years old? 10 years was your entire lifetime. My whole life, I haven't seen anything like that. Well, now it's not even a fifth of my lifetime anymore. But anyhow, a tenth. I meant a tenth, a fifth, whatever. It's been a while, but it goes by a lot faster than it used to. So I don't know. I'm going to think about it one of these days. I might tell those stories, and I might have illustrations too. But I'm going to do another video here coming up soon. I'm still fleshing it out, how I'm going to do it, how I'm going to lay it all out, about my own theory about the UAP stuff, because I have one. And it goes all the way back to World War II, and it covers everything, or at least explains why they did things back then. But then it became a part of the culture, and they never changed it. So maybe we'll talk about that soon. Maybe this weekend. Maybe I'll have time to do that this weekend. It's just a theory. It's just me. I'm just going to be spitballing it with notes. So it's not really spitballing. Anyway, I just got upset about this whole thing this morning because I was reading all the stuff on X about the UAP task force and all these people who've done all this stupid shit, and the people that keep walking around trying to tell everybody that they're not in it for the money. There's nothing in it for them. Yeah, bullshit. There's a lot in it for you, for all of you. The only person you might want to believe that isn't getting anything out of it would be David Grush, because he's kind of like laying low now. But a lot of those other guys, intentionally right out front in your face. And I don't trust a damn one of them. None of them. I used to have a lot of respect for George Knapp because I thought he did some good reporting, and he was like groundbreaking. He was kind of fearless. But since he's linked up with Jeremy Corbell, I don't trust that little shit as far as I can throw him. I might be able to throw him pretty far, but I don't know. But yeah, no, I don't trust him at all because he is full of shit, to put it plainly. But we'll talk about it more, I'm sure. I'm hoping that I'll find something else to talk about. But right now, this is occupying a lot of my brain. There's been a lot that's happened recently, and a lot of bad things have happened recently, and I just don't feel like talking about them because I know that there's so many idiots out there creating conspiracy theories around them, And I just don't feel like addressing it this early. People are going to be stupid. People are going to say, well, this is completely unnatural for this to be happening. Well, yeah, because things don't explode and fall out of the sky every day. It's kind of unnatural. You fucking idiot. So I don't feel like addressing that crap and getting into the mud with those dumbasses. So maybe someday I'll feel like it, but I don't right now. So I'm gonna move on. And as long as they keep putting these stupid UAP people right out in front and center, right in our face, and they're going to all look us in the eye and lie to us, I'll still be talking about it. But, we'll find other things to talk about too. But all the cool things are kind of in limbo currently. But they'll come back. We'll talk about them again. So next time, don't know what we'll be talking about, but it'll be something that I'll rant and I'll probably use foul language. So, make sure your kids aren't around. But until then, hey, take care of yourselves. Go ahead and go read all the funny stuff that people say, and just don't assume that it's true.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Really? Just Stop with your host, Ross. Make sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss a dose of some common sense.